Okay, am I audible to everyone now? Am I audible to everyone now? Yes, okay, that's great, that's great, that's great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, okay. Got it. Okay, let's start with Azure. Hmm. So let me introduce myself. I am Mohammad Kamal, uh, working as a Azure cloud consultant in a company, in an MNC company based out of Pune. I carry along 12 years of experience, started my career with data center technologies. From last 6 years, I'm into cloud and DevOps. Most of the project we are doing are from the automation side. Most of the project, again, there are some development project as well. Some, let's say, services project are there also. Right now, since it's not only Azure, we work in a hybrid environment whereby we used to encounter the AWS, GCP as Azure as well, and some part of the on-prem data center. When I say automation, so projects like, as you know, that cloud is being from last 10 years, and most of the, yeah, I have not till shared my whiteboard with you. Let me share it with you. Okay, let me share my screen. So somebody wants that. So, okay, that will be good if I show you in that way. Just a moment. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Let me share my screen. Show my screen. So is my screen is visible to everyone? Is my screen is visible now to everyone? Yes. Very good, very good. Let me share my whiteboard with you people. So myself, Muhammad Kamel, carrying along 12 years of experience. Started my career with data center technologies. So mostly in the start of my career, I worked in Middle East, including UAE and Saudi Arabia and Muscat. Right now, working as a Azure cloud consultant in a company based out of Pune. It's a MNC company only, and there I am a lead and most of the time engaged in solution architecting, uh, migrations, and of course, all these are not completed without DevOps. So DevOps is also one of the core activities right now I'm doing. Okay. So this is all about me. So let's start with the Azure cloud basically, because you all are here. The Azure cloud. Some of you will be from the, let's say, development background, some from the operation background, some may be from different domain only, some may be beginner, right? So for all of them, let's try to understand what exactly Azure cloud is and how it's going to help you in your career, and what is the fundamental of Azure cloud, and what kind of services and everything we are getting out of that, and how it is different from other cloud in the market. Azure cloud, first thing, let's try to understand. uh, Azure cloud is basically a public cloud, as you all know. Now this public cloud, what it gives us, it gives us the provision for cloud computing, correct? And when I say cloud computing, right? So there is a term inside this two words that is called computing, right? And with this term, we now reach to a term that is called computing resource. So I will transition you step by step so that you should have a very length breadth knowledge of the Azure cloud and all the terminologies which are involved here. So started with Azure cloud. It's a one of the public clouds. What are the other vendors we have in the market as a part of public clouds? Different vendors are there. Let's say the leader is AWS. Second one is Azure. Then we have GCP, Google Cloud Platform, and we have IBM Cloud, IBM Software. We say there is one Chinese giant as well, Alibaba Cloud, right? So why Azure basically? Azure is one of the cloud which is growing very fast compared to all other cloud vendors. Just if you see the graphs, if you sometime dig on the Google, so it was lagging behind between the means behind the AWS, but now it is chasing it fast. They have very customer friendly policies. That's the reason they are growing in a very fast pace. So before going to the Azure cloud, let's try to understand what exactly a public cloud, right? We'll try to understand the architecture of a public cloud. So that will give you a very exhaustive means inside what is happening in cloud computing and what basically what kind of things we are getting there. Let's say if you go for any cloud, you get different type of services: software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. All those things we are going to discuss here. Okay, so today's session will be a very remarkable session. At least you will have a very better understanding what exactly a cloud computing is. Okay, and how these cloud vendors are changing the word we are saying. Okay, so as I said that we are starting with Azure cloud. It's a public cloud. Other vendors which are available in the markets are AWS, GCP, IBM Software, Alibaba Cloud. Many other vendors are also there, but they have largest market share. So AWS had the largest market share, then Azure, then GCP, then IBM, then Alibaba Cloud. So before going to public cloud, let's try to understand what exactly a cloud computing is. So let's remove the cloud from it. Let's try to focus on computing. And if you want to understand the computing, then you need to understand a term that is called computing resource. Okay, so this is important. This is important. So okay. So now computing resources. Okay. So anyone has any idea about the computing resource? Anyone want to say something about the computing resource? Yeah, okay. Background noise is there. I'm trying to manage it. Computing resource. If I ask you what exactly a computing resource, how do you answer it? Yeah, anyone who can answer what exactly a computing resource is? You can put your answer. I will add there. The storage, very good. Ajit, excellent. Anything else? Virtual server, okay. Who is this? Saurabh, okay. It is the processing power of a virtual server, okay. Processing power. So, what exactly a processing power? What things we can include inside a processing power? Okay, let's go to our whiteboard and try to understand. This is very important, very important terminology. CPU is one of the processing power. Then we have memory. Then we have storage, and then we have IO. CPU is basically processor for you, right? It's a processing power, but it's a processor. Okay, here. Just a moment. I select the larger and just a moment. CPU is the processor basically. Processor. What about memory? For you, it's a RAM. Okay. Storage, you can say it's a hard disk drive, or let's say nowadays we have flash or SSD. IO, what is IO? IO is NIC card, where you plug in your cable, or using the wireless NIC card, you connect to your Wi-Fi. Two types of NIC card, right? Wired and wireless. This all thing, we call it as a hardware. And on the top of that hardware, we install one operating system, and on the top of this operating system, we use to install our applications, right? So if I ask you what kind of application we can use here, Office is one of the application. You use it on daily basis. Let's say Adobe Reader, or let's say web browser. It's a network application. That means if we are using Office or Adobe, we may not be using the IO NIC card part, but as a part of web browser, since it's a network application, it will be using the NIC card part, right? What kind of operating system we can use here? So it is Windows 10, Macintosh, Ubuntu, Android, Apple, anything which you are having in your hand, that can also be a operating system. So this model, I call it as a client compute. Why I am calling it as a client compute? The reason being, this is layer 1, this is layer 2, and this is layer 3. On the third layer, if you see, I am running the end user application. That's the reason I am calling it as a client compute. Okay, so let's say Office software, Adobe software, web browser, or what are the client operating system? Windows 10, Macintosh, Ubuntu desktop, Android, Apple, correct? Now let me show you another model here. Hardware. On the top of this hardware, we have operating system, and on the top of this operating system, this time I'll not be installing the client application. I'll be installing something called as server software. So now you can ask me, what is server software? So it is this. So web server software like Apache and Nginx, mail server software like Exchange Server or SendMail, FTP server software, VSFTPD or IS in Windows. Then we have file server software, database server software, or application server software like Tomcat, JBoss, WebLogic, or WebSphere. Right? These are the products we use as a part of application server. Okay, now you can ask, okay, what will be the operating system here? So let me give you the operating system. Server operating system. So Windows Server, let's say 2016 or 2019, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, or if you belong to a Unix arena or Unix era, to be very precise, so you had one operating system that is called Solaris, HP Unix or IBM AIX, and this model we call it as a server compute. Okay, so is this is clear to everyone? Now you can acknowledge what is IOPS. I will tell the IOPS. It is the basically input output operation on the storage, that is hard disk or SSD. That is disk IOPS. So how many number of bytes you are reading or writing on the hard disk, Hemant? That is IOPS. RAM space exactly what? Any infrastructure which helps in processing. Okay, that was the answer to my question. Yes, quite correct. Saurabh, what means what you are asking? Okay, so you are giving the answer. Okay, RAM, correct. It's RAM, as we discussed. Hemant, disk IOPS is nothing but what? The read and write we are doing on the hard disk, correct? So till this point, are we clear? So we have a computing resource here. CPU memory storage IO, and this is basically for you, it's a hardware. On the top of hardware, we used to install operating system. One of the model we are running the end user application, if you see on the client compute side, and another model is server compute, which is mostly used inside the data center. So if you go for the server compute model, you will not find it in your home. In your home, you will be finding something like client compute, right? And in the data center, basically what you will be finding, in the data center, you will be finding the next model, that is server compute. Is it okay to everyone? Any questions on this? Smita is saying yes. Thanks, Smita. Anyone has any question till this point? Let's discuss it. Then we'll move forward gradually, so that I'll make a building block one on another. In that, we'll have a better understanding what we are going to see there. So any question till this point? So try to remember first important concept, that is computing resource, CPU memory storage IO. IO is basically NIC card. It's not keyboard, mouse, monitor. At the professional level, we talk it as a NIC card. Two types of NIC cards are there, wired and wireless. When you plug in your Cat6 cable in the RJ45 connector, it's a wired NIC card. And when you connect to a Wi-Fi with your smartphone, or let's say connect with your SIM to a telecom network, it's a wireless NIC card, correct? Two models we are seeing here. One is client compute, where on the third layer we are running the end user application. Who are the end user? Layman people like us, who are using the apps on the Android or apps on the Apple or some app on the desktop or laptop. They are the end user, correct? And the second model is server compute, that is being hosted inside the data center. Most of the time that model you will find inside the data center, from where we are consuming the services. My voice is not audible to everyone, is it? Pradeep is complaining that unable to hear anything. Anyone else? It is audible, you are audible. Pradeep, you should try to reconnect from your side. Maybe there is something wrong on your side itself, because everyone is saying that I'm audible. Pradeep, you can check from your side. You can just plug it out, your headphone, earphone, or let's say you can again join this link. Voice is clear. That's good, Sandeep. Thank you. Okay, that's great. Let's move to next content. Now I'll show you the third model. Okay, try to understand that. So we have client compute, we have server compute. That is good. Let's go on the third. So I will remove it for you, and in between only I'll be showing you the third model. Today you will have a very clear-cut understanding of what exactly a cloud is, and what exactly cloud computing is, and what kind of services we are consuming there. Okay, let's go to the third model. This time I'm again taking hardware. So for me, hardware is what? It's a computing resource, right? CPU, memory, storage, IO. But this time what I'll do is, I'll not be installing any operating system. I will install one software that is called hypervisor. Okay, and what this software does for me is, it gives me a facility to create virtual machines on the top of it. Sorry, VM. And on the top of that VM, I have operating system. And on the top of that operating system, now you have a choice. Either you can run end user application like this, or you can run server software. So most of the time, this model will be finding inside the data center. SS means server software. This application. This is how we represent the application. And using a single rectangle, we represent the server software. And you know, this model is called, you already know, virtualization. This is called virtualization. Go to that. Go to that. Okay, is this clear? So it's very strange that we arrived to the virtualization. We had started from the Azure cloud when we discussed public cloud, then we cloud computing, then we came to the computing. We are drilling down actually. So we came to the computing, we discussed the computing resource, we discussed two models, client compute and server compute. Now with that same concept, building on the same, I am showing the third model, that is called virtualization. So what exactly a virtualization? I'm dividing the hardware into three different machines, virtual machines. So someone can ask you, okay, how do you define a virtual machine? So very simple answer for you. You can answer it like that, like this. So virtual machine is nothing but it's a set of computing resource for you. Very precise answer. Set of computing resource. What was computing resource? CPU, memory, storage, IO. So for you, virtual machine is a set of computing resource. Correct. So this is the third model we are talking of. Okay, so on this third model, on the top of VM, you can install either your applications on the top of operating system or your server software. And this model, what you are seeing right now in the middle, most of the if you go to the whole planet or the whole world right now, 98% of the enterprise data center use this model as a part of computing. So virtualization is the model they are taking. Now let's go further. So I'll tell you one important sentence you have to remember in your cloud journey. So what is that? So if there is no virtualization, there is no cloud. Let me repeat it again. If there is no virtualization, there is no cloud. This is a proverb inside the IT industry. And within 5 or 10 minutes, you will be able to see that I'm going to justify this proverb properly. I'm again repeating it. If there is no virtualization, there is no cloud. Okay, let's go and try to justify it. So what I'll do is first I'll rub these models for you. Okay. So for you, from now onward, virtual machine is a set of computing resource. And if you see the chronology, I have first taken you to the computing resource, then client compute server. That's the reason, because I am introducing the new terminologies and that terminologies is being used down the line, correct? Okay, let's see what else we have got here. So let me redraw it. This eraser is quite big. Okay. Who are the vendor inside the industry that are making hypervisor software product? There is a company that is called VMware, if you have heard of. Then we have Microsoft, MSFT. Then we have a company called Citrix, correct? VMware has a product that is called ESXi. Microsoft has a product that's a Hyper-V. And Citrix has a product that is called Zen Server. All these three are hypervisor for you. So it's like this. Try to understand. Web browser, correct? So web browser, basically it's a generic name. It's a generic name of the technology or the software. We have different products: Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Internet Explorer, right? Similarly, hypervisor is the generic name of the technology, and we have got different products inside that. These are the products basically. So from VMware company, we have a product that is called ESXi. From the Microsoft, we have Hyper-V, and from the Citrix, we have Zen Server. All these are hypervisor, correct? Now, one more thing here. Let's suppose you are a virtualization administrator. Yeah. So when we as a virtualization administrator want to manage the data center, how do we do it? So if you see in the diagram of the virtualization, actually hypervisor, basically it is acting as an operating system for the hardware, and for the VMs it is acting as a factory from where we can create different VMs, number of VMs, right? So anyway, we will be having one IP for the hypervisor. Let's say for this hypervisor I have an IP like 10.10.10.10. And how do you manage it? Very simple. You go to your web browser and you type like this: https :/10.10.10.10. Press enter. What will happen is it will open a dashboard like this. Here all your VMs will be listed. You select the VM, and on that VM you can perform different operations: create, update, delete, modify, everything. Okay, So this is how we manage the virtualization. Okay, let me ask the question again. So till this point, do we have? Okay, somebody is asking, what is virtualization? Can you add Docker? Let me go through gradually. Don't ask means the curriculum part. I'll be discussing the curriculum part in the last. So what as a part of Azure will be covering Docker and everything. I'll be exposing all the service there. So right now just try to focus on what I'm trying to make you understand. Basically I'm trying to focus on basically virtualization. So what is virtualization again? Could you please again explain? Oracle VirtualBox. Yes, Oracle VirtualBox is a virtualization software. Okay, no problem. Let me go again in this diagram. I'll open the diagram. Very simple. On the top of hardware, I didn't install an operating system like as in server compute and client compute. I installed one software that is called hypervisor, right? This hypervisor facilitates me to create virtual machine on the top of it. And on the top of VM, I'll be again installing my operating system, because without my operating system, uh, neither I can run application nor I can run server software. So this is what our virtualization is. Basically what's the benefit I am getting out of virtualization? I am saving my, or let's say conserving my resources, hardware resources. So anytime if you go to your laptop and open your task manager, you will see that your processor is not getting utilized very much. The most the much of the percentage, most of the time you will see it is being only utilized 10% or 20%. So that means 80% of the time your processor is idle. 80% we are not utilizing it. With the help of virtualization, you are doing it. You are utilizing your hardware in a better way. So conserving your computing resources or your hardware and utilizing it better is nothing but virtualization. So suppose in earlier time in the data center, you want to make three server. You want to make, let's say, web server, database server and mail server. So you would have need one hardware, two hardware, three hardware. With the help of virtualization on the single hardware, you have three VM and you can create three server software, one, two, and three. Let's say here also we made a server software. So that's the benefit we are getting. So we are conserving the resources, indirectly we are conserving the cost, reducing the cost. Now it is clear. Now it is clear. Okay. How does disaster recovery work? Again, that's a out of context question. We are not yet on the disaster recovery part. Who is this? Sorry, could you explain? Virtualization is clear to everyone or not? I will answer the question regarding the Docker disaster recovery. That's a part of the cloud service which we'll be discussing at the end of the session. So can you please focus on the things which I am trying to make you understand? Okay, there is question from who is this? Bansur. Here, how does it work? So what exactly means, how does it work? Okay, on the top of virtual machine, you'll be installing operating system, same as you do on your laptop, right? You take a hardware and you from, let's say, market, you install an operating system on the top of that. On the top of that operating system, you start creating your application, let's say installing your application, then you are able to use it. Similar is the way with the virtualization as well. So same way you can use the virtualization. So virtualization is clear to everyone or not? Yes, it is clear. Thanks. Anyone has any question for the virtualization? Clear for me. Okay. No questions. Let's move ahead then. So load on the hardware part. Yes. So actually the hardware part has been divided into three VMs. So you are slicing the computing resource. That means CPU, memory, storage are out of to the different virtual machines. So yes, if you want to make large number of virtual machine, then in that case you would be requiring a better configuration of the hardware. Vikas. So in data center, basically we are most of the time, if we are talking of RAM, right? So it will be like 512 GB of RAM, or sometime it will be having 1 TB of RAM, not hard disk, 1 TB of RAM, and we'll have a processor speed of 3.5 gigahertz octa core, hexa core, like that. Correct? Is it different for virtualization on the cloud? Let me. I'm arriving there. I'm arriving there. Be patient. I'm arriving there. That's the reason I'm taking it everything from the sketch. Once I'll be completing everything, we'll have a better understanding. All your question will be answered. Okay, let's move ahead. So I was telling like how do you manage it? Very simple. Every hypervisor has a IP with you. Every hypervisor is an IP with you, and you can open your Google Chrome browser, or let's say any other. You type HTTPS IP, dashboard will open, and you can start managing your virtual machine from there. Update, create, modify, delete, anything. Okay. Now the challenge is here. Let's take a scenario. Okay, so I will rub it. So let me make it again. Let's say hardware, hypervisor, VMs, OS, and what? Let's say most of the time you are using server software. Let's make it server software. No problem. Now, in data center will not be having one hypervisor. Let's say on one hardware we are putting one hypervisor. There are two terms. Let me introduce the term. There is something called as heterogeneous data center, and there is something called as homogeneous data center. So what is hetero and homo? Hetero means different, homo means same. If you are using all the hypervisor from the same vendor, so that is called heterogeneous. Homogeneous. And if you have a hypervisor from different vendors, in that case it's a heterogeneous data center, different vendors. Okay. Now let's take a scenario. Let's say we have a data center. We have 100 hardwares there. We have 100 hardwares, correct? So if I ask you how many hypervisor we will be requiring on those 100 hardware, the simple answer is of course 100 hypervisor, correct? And now let's take a scenario that on each hypervisor I have two virtual machines. Let's say I have created two virtual machines, and then in that case on 100 hypervisor I will be having 200 virtual machine, correct? Simple calculation. Now if you want to manage all these hypervisors sitting at a single place, how do you do it? So you will do something like this. What you will do, let's say this is first hardware and it has an IP of 10.10.10. So you will be doing HTTP, right? And you will be, let's say, saying 10.10.10.10, and you will be entering on the first tab. You'll be opening second tab, 10.11. Let's say something like 10.100. In every tab you will have one dashboard which will be connecting you to the corresponding hypervisor, correct? And you are a virtualization administrator in your organization, and a ticket came to you that okay, there is some problem on the 10th number hypervisor. What you will do, since you have opened 100 tabs inside your Google Chrome, so you have to scroll it to the 10th, get inside the 10th dashboard, shoot the issue, and now you get the second ticket that is being residing on the 70th tab or the 70th hypervisor. So you need to do the you keep on doing the to and fro inside your tabs inside your browser, right? So for some time, for 2 or 3 days, 1 week, it's good. If you are, let's say, new recruit in passion, you can say okay, yes, I can manage. But after 7 days you will be frustrated, because this method will be very cumbersome, right? And it is very troubling. Every time I have to go to a hypervisor, I know I need to go to that particular tab to get connected to it and start troubleshooting the issue from there. It will not always be troubleshooting. It can be a ticket for creating a virtual machine on the 80th hypervisor. That can also be the scenario, right? Okay, so how do we avoid this? So this is how we avoid. So different companies. So VMware was there, and they had made a product called ESXi. Similarly, Microsoft was there. They have made a product called, let's say, Hyper-V, correct? And Citrix was there. And 2 or 3 more vendors are there in the market, but what I'm mentioning here is they have the largest market share in the market. So let me remove this. Now you understand the challenge. How we are going to manage it? Management is the headache. It is a challenge because managing 100 hypervisor, it's a very less number I'm talking about. If you go to the enterprise data center with large environment, they will have 1,000 hardware and 1,000 hypervisor, and on the top of that 1,000 hypervisor, they will be running 10,000 virtual machine. It is on the largest scale. So here what they have done is each company, right? Each company, they have made one management software. So from the VMware, we have got one management software that is called vCenter Server. From Microsoft, we have System Center Virtual Machine Manager that is called SCVMM. From Citrix, we have Zen Center. Now, good thing is, when you have this management software, what you can do, if you have 100 hypervisor of ESXi, so you can connect all those hypervisor inside a single dashboard using vCenter software. So how this will be listed? Each of your hypervisor will correspond to these lines. And once you select this line, the corresponding hardware will be open inside that window itself. Here, all your machines will be listed. So if you hover to the next, second will be open, third will be open, fourth will be open, likewise, and so on, correct? So sitting at single dashboard of vCenter server, now you can manage entire infrastructure from the same window, same dashboard, or same console. You don't have to do the to and fro like we are doing inside the Google Chrome tab. Now this software will be connecting to all the hypervisor. Similarly for Microsoft SCVMM, Citrix, it is Zen Center. Now there is one more challenge here. The management software will be connecting to its own hypervisor from the same vendor or same company. That is being said, that exactly means as vCenter server will only be connect to VMware ESXi. It cannot do a cross connection with Hyper-V or Zen server. It cannot connect. Okay. So this it cannot connect, and this it cannot. Similarly, your SCVMM cannot connect to your ESXi. It can only connect to your Hyper-V, right? That means it is vendor native. So when I say vendor native, means it will be only connected from to the product of the same vendor or from the same company, not from any other company. Correct? Okay. Just a moment. Are we clear till this point? Does all VM deployed on the single hyper hardware? If hardware failure, VMs down, any solution, everything okay? Who's this? Prashant. Prashant, no. All, let's suppose on the each hypervisor I have 3 VMs, so we'll have a high availability. So we'll take one other hardware, install on the top of hypervisor, and whenever there is a hardware failure, we will be doing something called as virtual machine motion. All the VMs will be migrated to the second hardware, which is live. So that we do in the virtualization. Hope that answer your question. We'll have a high availability setup. Which one we are going to learn? No, we are not going to learn any kind of hypervisor here. We are going to learn cloud. We are not going to learn hypervisor. Can we have more than, okay, can we have more than 2 on high? Yes, of course, it depends on the configuration on the hardware. You can have 50 or 100 machine on the single hardware, no problem at all. Yeah. So till this point, are we clear? Okay, just a moment. Who is this? Vikas Singh. Is there any limit on the number of VMs in the hyper? No. Basically, the limit will be on the hardware configuration. Are we clear till this point? Yes, it's clear. Thanks. Okay. Let's go to our whiteboard. Try to understand the problem we are facing here. So we came up with a solution that is called management software, right? Through that management software, I can connect, let's say 100 ESXi server, let's say from vCenter server, 100 from the SCVM, 100 from the Zen Center, and sitting at the single dashboard, right? Let's take an example of the heterogeneous data center where I said that the hypervisor can be from the different vendors. So let's say 100 hardwares have 100 ESXi, 100 hardwares, next 100 hardwares have 100 Hyper-V, and next 100 hardware has Citrix Zen server as a hypervisor on the top of them. So that will be the definition of the heterogeneous data center. Okay. Again, to manage this heterogeneous data center, you will have three dashboard with you. One from the vCenter server, another from the SCVMM, and third from the Zen Center. Three dashboard, three windows. You have to manage all those. And if you see, there is a common word between all these management software that is called center. Center basically means consolidating. Okay. Now, I have a solution for you. Rather than going for all these management software are licensed, you have to pay. I came up with a solution, or just say like, I want one single software that can connect to my different multiple heterogeneous hypervisor sitting at a single dashboard. I don't want three management software. I want one management software that can connect to different hypervisor from the different vendor. Because in this situation, the current situation, the management software from one vendor is not able to connect to the hypervisor of another vendor. So I need some single software which can connect to all these hypervisor. I will then, in that case, I'll be removing all these management software and putting that single software, and that software is nothing but cloud software. So what exactly a cloud software, to understand that? So cloud software is nothing but it's a software which manages your entire virtualization infrastructure sitting at a single dashboard. Okay, this is the definition of the cloud software. What are the products available here in the market to implement a cloud software? So OpenStack is one of the very famous product. Then from Apache Foundation we have CloudStack. VMware also has developed a cloud solution that is called vCloud Director, and Microsoft is also in this category, System Center. So with the help of System Center, you can create a private cloud. So I would like to highlight two terms here. When you are using a private cloud software inside your data center, then it is called basically private cloud. And if you are using the management software, in that case, we can call it on-prem data center. So this is the difference. Okay, so like I said, if there is no virtualization, there is no cloud. Let's try to justify it. We wanted the hypervisor for the virtualization, and to manage that virtualization, we wanted a management software. And once we have that management software, we move one step ahead, and we said that, okay, I don't want different management software. I need a single consolidated software. So this we make as a cloud software. So cloud software is nothing but it's a software which manages your entire infrastructure sitting at a dashboard. It can heterogeneously connect to ESXi, Hyper-V, Zen server, or any other hypervisor for that matter. Okay, let me ask. So are we clear here? Are we clear here? There is a question, where do I ping question to tutor? How can I interact with him? Can we install the vCenter server management software on any if VM on the so vCenter server software, it is a licensed software. Most of the time you'll be using it inside the data center. You will not be using it inside your laptop or desktop. Can you please repeat, Smita, what do you want me to repeat basically? Smita, can you write it down? What do you want me to repeat? If you go to this diagram, right? So very simple diagram. These are the hypervisor I'm highlighting. To manage these hypervisor, I have a management software from respective companies. I don't want all these licensed software. Instead, I want a single software that is called cloud software, and that will manage my entire virtualization infrastructure, which is this. Correct? And these are the products available in the market: OpenStack, CloudStack, vCloud Director, and System Center. So when you have thrown away all these management software, and in place of them you have installed a cloud software, call your data center as a private cloud. Otherwise, if you are using the management software, correct, call it as an on-prem data center. Is it clear? Smita, is it clear to you now? What is on-prem? So any data center which is residing on your organization is on-prem. So you have that hardware, software, connectivity space in your organization itself. That is on-prem data center. That data center has a propriety of your own. You own it, you manage it, you operate it. That is on center. Is it clear now? Repeat the last part again, please. Swati. What exactly, Swati? What do you want to know? On-prem. Okay. On-prem is a data center which is owned, maintained, and operated by you. So all the hardware, rack, physical connectivity, physical premise, everything, you will be owning it. And we consolidate all hypervisor for what? This is one of the benefit of cloud. So okay, Vishal is saying this is one of the benefit of cloud, that we consolidated all hardware. Okay, so what is the benefit I am getting out of cloud software? So I don't have to install different management software, right? Using single software, the whole data center virtualization I can manage sitting at a single dashboard. That is very good if you are an operation guy, right? So you don't have to make to and fro, or you don't have to log in every time to different places from different companies on different. What is that? Sing Jolly Sing. Jolly Sing, what you are asking? Okay, so can I install different hypervisor from different companies on Sing? No, each hardware will only have one hypervisor at one time. You cannot install more than one hypervisor on the hardware. If my organization uses only SXI, do I need cloud in the organization? VMware itself, let's say any company itself will be recommending you to go to the cloud software. And if you have a primitive data center, no need. If you are able to manage your virtualization infrastructure using the management software, no need. It's entirely depend on you whether you want to opt it or not. There may be a case where in future you'll not be having ESXi, or let's say Hyper-V, you'll be having some project whereby you are using Citrix Zen server. In that case, you can go for the cloud. Else, if it is from the same vendor, I don't think so. It's entirely depends on your choice. Hope that answers your question. Okay. Any other question till this point? No. Okay. Just a moment. Who is this? Yogesh Pansare. When you say hardware, okay, what is, okay, is it server or machines? So who is this? Just a moment. Yogesh, what do you mean by server? How you define a server? Let me ask a question. There are 71 people here. Let me ask a very fundamental question. Server is hardware or software? Server is hardware or software? Vishal is saying it's hardware. Okay. Hardware plus software. That's a good answer, Yogesh. You covered everything. Again, Amrish, combination of both. Okay, software. Okay, hardware, software. Okay, so let me tell you first very clear concept on this. Technically, programmatically, server is software. You can make your Android phone as a server. Anything which is serving your resources, it is a server. So resources is what? Web page, mail messages, files, folders, right? Okay, programmatically server is a software. We have server class hardware, because to run a server software we need large amount of computing resource. What we have discussed earlier, we will be requiring large amount of CPU, we will be requiring large amount of, let's say, RAM, and let's say IO and storage. So that is called server class hardware. Okay, let me show you also. So let's say rack server. So these are the servers you will be finding inside the data center. Okay, so they have high computing resources with them. Rack server and blade server as well. So it's a hardware basically, right? So server class hardware. Server is not a hardware basically. It's a server class hardware. Server is running as a service inside your operating system. If you want to check it anytime inside the Windows, very simple. Services.msc. So is it opening? No, it's not. Okay, these are the services you are running. So some are system services and some are application services. So right now I don't have any application services. So any server is nothing but a service running in the background unless until a system is rebooted or powered off. So that is, and that's the reason we call it server. It has been derived from the name of service. Is it okay? Got the concept? You install a share it on your smartphone and you start sharing your files with some other smartphone or to your, let's say, friends. That's a server basically. You are acting as a server. He's taking resources from you, right? And you are giving him the resources. So he is a client for you and you are server for him. That is called peer-to-peer networking. But let's say if you are using a web browser and you are connecting a web server, that is called client server networking. So torrent protocol is a peer-to-peer networking, and web server web app is client server networking. Correct? Is it clear? Anyone has any question, please ask. Till this point, are we clear? Are we good? Let's move ahead then. I'll go to my whiteboard. Now I will tell you about the public cloud. This is all the background I wanted to tell you for the cloud. So from now onwards, cloud software is nothing but anything which is managing your entire virtualization infrastructure sitting at a single dashboard. So let me recap everything. We started with Azure cloud, public cloud, cloud computing, computing resource, four types of computing resource: CPU, memory, storage, IO. Two models I have shown you: server compute, client compute. Client compute for running end user application like you use Android, iPhone, laptop, desktop. Server compute almost most of the time executed or run inside the data center. Then we have seen the third model, virtualization. This time on the top of hardware, I'm not installing the operating system. This time I'm putting what? Hypervisor. And this hypervisor is giving them the facility to create virtual machine. What is virtual machine? It's a set of computing resource for you. On the top of that virtual machine, we are installing operating system, and that operating system on the top of that, either we can run end user application or server software. Okay, that was virtualization. I told you one proverb: if there is no virtualization, there is no cloud. Then I moved to different vendors of the virtualization: VMware, ESXi, Microsoft Hyper-V. Right now on your whiteboard, Citrix and server. To manage all these, I told you a challenge. If you want to manage 100 hypervisor, if you want to do it singly, then in that case you have to open 100 tabs there, and that will be very cumbersome and troubling, right? So we came up with another solution that is called management software. Different vendors from the different company. vCenter server for the VMware, CVM for the Microsoft, and Zen Center from the Citrix. I want to remove all these licensed software. Rather, I need a single software that can manage my entire virtualization infrastructure sitting at a single dashboard or console. So that is basically cloud software. So cloud is nothing but it's a software which is managing your entire virtualization infrastructure. OpenStack, CloudStack, vCloud Director, and System Center from the Microsoft. If you have this provision, you can call it a private cloud. Otherwise, if you have a management software, that's an on-prem data center. Okay, we are done here till for the basics. Public cloud. So we trace it in the reverse order actually. Now we are on the public cloud, right? We started with the Azure cloud. So let's try to see first public cloud. For you, in a layman language, public cloud is nothing but shared data center. Any data center which is being shared. So what are the vendors here? So as I told earlier, AWS, Azure. These are the top ones. Many other vendors are there in the market. So let's talk about these only. So public cloud is nothing but it's a shared data center. So when I say shared data center, so it will have some virtualization infrastructure, and that virtualization infrastructure is being managed by some cloud software. Maybe that cloud software has been customized from AWS, Azure, or GCP. We don't know yet, correct? But it is a customized. Most of the time, what they do, they take the open source software like OpenStack and they customize it inside their organization and they use it. So this is the way they do it. Okay. Okay. Features of a public cloud. Your public cloud is always on demand. Your public cloud is highly available. When I say highly available means what? So two things are there, data and service. It is on demand. So whenever you want your computing resources, you just click it on and you will get your computing resources indirectly your VM or containers. Highly available. Let's say you save a PDF file inside the cloud. So it will have 3 copies of it and in different geographical region, Pune, Mumbai, or let's say Delhi. Or it is in the India itself. Sometime it can be purely geographically distributed, Singapore, Japan, and India. It can be replicated like this. That's a data availability. What is service availability? Let's suppose you are hosting an e-commerce website. Something happens to your Mumbai data center. The traffic will be redirected to, let's say, Singapore. So you will keep on serving the pages. The user will not feel any disruption. That's the service availability. And that has to be configured actually. That is not there by default. We have to configure it. Okay. Now let's go to the third feature of the cloud, which is very, very important. And without that, the cloud cannot be a cloud. What is that? Can anybody tell it? Okay, let's cut the confusion. Elasticity. Elasticity is two things: vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. When I say vertical scaling, scale up, scale down. What is horizontal? Uh, Scale out, scale in. Is it okay? So these are the three features. We have more feature as well. So let's talk about the elasticity. Vertical scaling is what? So let's say you have a laptop and you want to upgrade your RAM or let's say hard disk, or you want to change your processor from i3 to i5. That is called vertical scaling. So when you are increasing the computing resource, it is a scaling up, and when you are reducing the computing resource, it is a scaling down. What is horizontal scaling? This time you are not increasing the configuration or of your laptop or your machine. What you are doing is you are making a clone and putting a clone server beside it and putting a load balancer in front of it, so that anytime a traffic is coming, it is being getting load balancer. So that is called scale out. If you are increasing the number of servers, increasing the number of server, scale out. Decreasing, scale in. Okay. Are we clear at this, up to this point? Who is this? Saurabh. Adding more resources to horizontal scaling. Yes, 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 yes. You can add more resources. Horizontal scaling generally increases the number of server. It does not increase the size of the virtual machine. So if you want to increase the size of the virtual machine or the server, let's say virtual server, so in that case, you have to do scale up and scale down. Is it clear? Are we clear till this point? That's great. That's great. Let's move to next topic. What else features do we have? Okay, so other than elasticity, okay, so whatever resources you are consuming, you are only charged for that. And the last feature is secure. So there can be a debate on this, but if you had been to any kind of compliances, so if you belong to normal organization, they have this one: debit card, credit card, PCI DSS, healthcare, HIPAA, financial and audit organization, SOX, European organization, GDPR. Along with that, you have your territorial law. What is mean by territorial? The law for hosting a data center in India can be different from Japan. So all these things are complied inside your public cloud. Okay. In that respect, it is secure. On the top of it, you can implement your security feature as well. Like what? You can put firewall, you can put different type of encryption for traffics, right? You can do server hardening. All these things you can do on the top of what cloud is providing you. So is it clear on the security part and pay as you go part? Any question till this point? Any questions from anyone? That's great. Okay. So this was all about the features of the public cloud basically. Three types of service you can avail: software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. Anytime if you want to differentiate between all these things, try to focus on this intended audience for which people this service has been designed. So this is always for the end users. So what was the model we were following there? Hardware. On the top of hardware, we were putting hypervisor, then we have VM, right? Then we have OS, and let's say on the top of it we have application. So in case of software as a service, the intended audience is end user, and all these five layers is being managed by provider. Similarly, platform as a service are intended for coders, developers, programmers, testers. How it is? Model will remain same. Model will not change. VMs, OS, right? But this at this point of time on the fifth layer, let's say I'll be installing IDE, Integrated Development Environment. Let's say I'll give you one instance of database. If you're let's say developing an web-based application, correct? Web app. So model will not change. All these layer being managed by provider. Intended audience is coder, developer, programmer, tester. What they will do most of the time, these people do like this: code, build, test, publish, deploy, right? All these things are done by the coder, developer, programmer, tester people. So this platform is basically platform as a service. Now, third is infrastructure as a service. Model will not change. Model will remain same. Hypervisor. Again, VMs, right? On the third layer. On the top of VM, we have OS, correct? And on the top of either you install an application or server software. This time you got a facility. What facility? Two layers from the bottom. This is being managed by the provider. And three layers from the top. That means VMOS and a application or server software is being managed by people who were earlier called as system admins, and now they are called as cloud admins. So this is all about your cloud computing. Okay, so let me ask the question, are we clear on this part? We have seen three services. You need to focus on the intended audience. Software as a service for the end user, correct? Platform as a service for the coder, developer, tester, and infrastructure as a service for the system admin or system engineer or cloud admin. Software as a service, platform as a service, five layers are managed by the provider, and in infrastructure as a service, top three layers are managed by us, not the provider. So we have a control there, correct? Okay, what DevOps come under PaaS. So now in that case, you need to find out. So how you are hosting your DevOps tool? Are you managing your DevOps tool inside your data center, or you are itself managing the tools inside some virtual machine which is being created by you? So if that virtual machine on which you have installed the tool is managed by you, it's an infrastructure as a service. If not, in that case, it's a platform service. Vikas. Okay. Are we clear at this point, till this point? Because we are almost at the end of the session. Okay. Now what we'll do is, let's talk about Azure. So if you want to see the curriculum of the Azure, it's very simple. You go to Azure, let's say, when you don't have to write on this as well. Azure 103 or 104 will be the paper. Now you'll be appearing for the 104 after August. Okay. So this is the curriculum we are having, and the control panel from the screen. Okay. So if I go here and I say download, so PDF will open. Just a moment. Let me go through the syllabus. I'll answer all the questions which are there. This is the syllabus. These are all the topics we are having inside the 103 and 104 paper, and you will be learning all these topics. Okay, so you can always find it on the Microsoft website. Now, because people will have a lot of questions about this, let me throw some light on this as well. As a part of Azure training, what we are covering is AZ 103 or 104. So the curriculum, you can get it from the Microsoft website. So all the syllabus, what I have did is I have divided that syllabus into 6 modules: compute, network, storage, identity and access management, automation, and operations. What is compute basically? So compute is nothing but Azure VM and in this we'll be also learning the VMSS, virtual machine skill set. That's basically elasticity. In network, you'll be learning Azure VNet, network security group, Azure DNS, storage, Azure blob storage. That is called basically storage as a service. Storage as a service. Then we have NAS, network attached storage, and SAN, storage area network. In identity and access management, you'll be learning users, groups creation, role assignments or role creation as well. That will be done via Azure Active Directory. Just a moment, let me write this, then I'll take your questions. Automation. So we'll be learning infrastructure as a code, that is called basically ARM template inside Azure Cloud. And operations. What is operations? So Azure backup and Azure monitoring. So this will be the syllabus. So if you go to the entire syllabus which is there on the Microsoft site, I have covered everything here. Azure Monitor. So there they have given the line-wise topic. I have consolidated it in 6 modules. So these are the things which you are going to learn inside the Azure 103 and 104. Now let me start taking the question. Just a moment. So I'm a developer. Swati is asking a question. I'm a developer. Swati, you have to start your cloud computing journey with 103 and 104 itself. Once that is done, then you can move yourself to developer paper, because anyway if you go for 203, 60% or 70% of the syllabus is again from the 103 and 104. So anyone who is starting his career in Azure, so they are recommended to go for 103 and 104 paper, so that they are aware of the services which are there on the cloud, either for a developer or for the operations. Hope that's answer your question. Swati, which certification should I take? As far as if you're a beginner, again the same answer will be 103, and if you have already worked 1 year or 2 years on the Azure, you can directly appear for the 203 paper. Rishabh is asking how much networking should we. So we take all the prerequisite of the networking as a part of curriculum. So I'll be taking everything what is necessary to transition you to the Azure cloud networking. Hope that answered your question. Infrastructure as a code, difference between Terraform, which is better? Okay, who is this? Just a moment. Jolly Singh. Jolly, ARM template is a cloud native tool which will only work on the Azure. If you want a cross-platform tool, then Terraform is recommended. So with using same tool, either you can write a script for Azure, AWS, and GCP. And means you cannot do a direct comparison. If you are working natively on the Azure, ARM template is good. And if you are doing if in your project there is a cloud cross-platform, rather than going for the cloud native, go for the cloud agnostic tool, which once you have write the code, that should run on all the cloud. From where we can download the ISO of server or client for Azure. There is no ISO or server. You will be always doing everything from the web browser. You will be logging inside the web browser on the portal, and you will be start doing your activities there only. You don't need to install anything. Only a working browser is required. So, I'm from networking domain. No problem, Parag. This is the starting point for the cloud, and Azure is quite chasing up. So this is the best time to learn it. It doesn't make any difference whether you belong to a development or networking or ops side. As far as I am concerned, I take everyone as a fresher and start the journey from there only. Okay, networking domain and have no need not any programming language prerequisite for the cloud computing curriculum. I work in O365 identity. Okay, no problem. It's a software as a service, O365. You can always go for the cloud, and you can start exploring the services, correct? Do we have knowledge about, do we have any? No, I'll be covering all those things. You don't have to. From where I can start? I didn't get your question. From where I can start? Who's this? This is Parag. Parag, we'll be taking everything from the scratch in this cloud computing session. What is pre-required knowledge required for Azure admin? As such, nothing. I'll taking you as a fresher. So I'll giving the foundation first, then we'll be working on the Azure cloud portal. You don't have to worry on that part. Will there be hands-on? Most of the time we'll be doing the hands-on rather than theory. Everything you will be performing as a participant on your own cloud account. Shashank, I think, right? Who's that? Would you be providing the? No, of course not. I'll not be providing any Azure subscription. In any of the training of the Azure, nobody is going to provide you the subscription. You should have one debit or credit card. With that debit or credit card, will create your own account. Samant, would you be providing? No, of course not. Shashank Samant, right? Identity and access management again. Users, group, role assignment, group creation, all these things will be covered. Authorization will be covered inside the identity and access management. Smita. DUMS for easy preparation, you can find it on Udemy for 300 to 500 rupees. Would you be covering DevOps, build, release pipeline as well? Jolly Singh, you are asking very more. I think you're already working on the DevOps. That's why you are raising question for ARM template and this one Azure DevOps. No, as a part of Azure 103, no, as of now, no. I'm from the MS SQL dev working from 10 years. Of course, it will help you. We have a service called Azure SQL on the Azure cloud. But when we say that we are trying to manage a data center, cloud is what? It's a data center, right? When you are getting in this course, you are trying to manage a data center. So when we say data center, so there are different component in it. So database is one of it. So other than database, you have to be aware of a large number of other components which has to be managed as a part of cloud. I am from SQL DBA. Same answer. There any need to have deep understanding of Windows? No, not at all. Windows Linux will be covering it. Installation and setup and launch. Are you covering any project and integration with Microsoft .NET platform? I'll be hosting one website for you on the IAS server. Will that suffice, Saurav sir? Okay, I'm working on major incident management, will coordinate with all types of connectivity technologies. Okay, what is this question? What should I learn in Azure? Anyway, starting your journey in Azure, you have to start from somewhere, and that start is 103 or 104. Okay. So, okay. I'm also includes Azure AD install. What is Azure AD? Who's this? Sandeep Patil. I am also includes Azure AD. Azure Active Directory and Azure Active Directory domain services. These are two different things which we'll be covering as a part of curriculum. Which DB are supported by Azure? Any DB you can support there, PostgreSQL, MySQL, Oracle, and natively they have given Azure SQL from the MS SQL server. What is the course duration? It will be at least 7 weekends, but since we are going for long hours, it can be consolidated to 1 month. So I think for each session will be taking 2.5 to 3 hours each session. That way we can complete it in 1 month. I told the duration. Fees you can ask from the team. They will be weekend will be the classes, not weekdays. Basically, it will be weekend. Any other questions from anyone? As of now, I'm not interested to go to any physical location, Vikas. So definitely it would be an online session. How many months, Rishabh? Same answer, 1 month. If we are taking 2.5 to 3 hours in a weekend. Yani each session will be like 2.5 to 3 hours. There will be two sessions for one weekend. That means 6 hours. Correct? Yes. We have last 2 or 3 minutes. Anyone want to ask any question? They can ask. So I hope this has been very informative session for you. At least you have a now very better understanding of the cloud computing and all the terminologies involved there, right? And you now have a clear whether you want to pursue this course or not, right? And thank you for the and okay, Eid Mubarak to everyone, every one of you, and to your loved one. And from my side, please give them a happy tidings for the Eid Mubarak. And uh, let's see how many of you joining the journey with me for the Azure cloud. And thank you all for your time and for your interest. Thanks for your acknowledgement. Thank you. Eid Mubarak to everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye. Thank you.